and I'm going to be leading you through this training today. So our objectives for class, we're going to navigate the protocol module in OnCore. That's the PC console. That's what we're going to be working on in the train environment today. And during class, you're going to learn to add pertinent study information to a study in the protocol module in OnCore. We're also going to add IRB reviews, and we're going to provide sign-off on the study at various levels of review. A little bit about the class structure today. We're going to start with these introduction slides first, and then we're going to jump into the OnCore train environment. So I'm going to show you the steps on my screen, and I want you to follow along on your screen. So you're going to practice right alongside with me. That's why it's really important that everyone can get logged into the train environment and that you ask any questions if you are having trouble getting logged in. Everything you do during class today is going to be graded. So I want you to keep that in mind and make sure you're asking questions and understanding what we're teaching today. And after class, there will be a certification exercise. So it's not going to be too lengthy, but it is going to cover a couple things that we did in class today just to make sure that you can do that on your own. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that after class certification exercise at the end of class. So just keep in mind, like I said, everything's going to be graded that you do during class, but if you miss a few things, that's okay. You'll have a chance to do more in that certification exercise. A couple class norms. Stick with the class best you can. I do encourage you to ignore your phone and email as much as possible. I know it can be really tricky, but we're moving rather quickly. 3 hours sounds like a lot, but there's a lot to cover for this class. So I do encourage you to just try to hang tight. We will be taking a 5-minute break. That'll give you a chance to step away for a few minutes. If you need to step away at any time during class, you do feel free to do so. We'll try to get you caught up wherever you left off, but you can look out for that 5-minute break during class today. So everyone is going to be on mute. If you have questions, you can unmute yourself, but I really encourage you to use that chat function for any technical issues or questions. We have Mario from the OnCore support team, and he's ready to answer your questions. So don't be shy. We like questions. We want you to understand everything. And please don't message me privately during class today. So I'm not going to be monitoring the chat super frequently. I'm preoccupied with giving the training, so I probably won't see your message. So when you send a message, you can just send it to everyone, and Mario will be able to help, and we might have someone else from the OnCore support team joining a little bit later to help with questions. So keep in mind that all participants have different levels of experience in class today, and that this content is general. So today we're covering the minimum requirements to get your study open to accrual from the regulatory and research manager perspective. So there is a lot more to do in OnCore and a lot more that you might need to know. So this is when I would encourage you to speak to your team and your supervisors and find out more about what you need to know about OnCore. So this content is quite general today. All right, so the ultimate goal today is to gain access to OnCore production, which is where all of our work is done. So I'm just going to talk you through a little bit about what that looks like in getting access. So to attend class today, everyone should have filled out an OnCore access request form. So There's a link at the bottom of this slide, and we'll also have that information towards the end of training. But this is a link to our website, and that is where you will fill out the OnCore access request form if you haven't already. So this access form tells us the specific tasks that you'll be doing in OnCore, and we then tell you what role you'll need and what training you'll need. So you'll finish class today, and we will send you that certification exercise. So you're going to need to complete and pass the certification exercise, and then you'll be granted access to OnCore production, usually within 24 to 48 business hours. So you'll have, we'll talk a little bit more about the access form once again at the end of class, but I noticed that a lot of people attending today have not completed that yet. So to get access to production, you will need to complete that form. But let's talk a little bit more about access. So the roles that we grant you define what tasks you have permission to perform in OnCore. So different roles can do different work and different sign-offs. So roles define what you can do in OnCore. So for example, a regulatory coordinator can't update calendars and register subjects, but a research coordinator can. So we assign you your roles in OnCore, and these are based off of that OnCore access request form. So all role requests on the access request form are built into your profile. So your profile determines what protocols you can see. So you can't see protocols at an institution that's different from yours, and there are different levels of permissions. So profiles are built to give permissions by institution, department, and management group. And you can think of your management group as your team. So you must match your management group to what's in your profile to be able to view protocols. And we can update your profile to include a different role at any time. You can also update your management groups, your departments. Maybe you are still a research coordinator, but you've switched departments entirely. You need to let us know, and we can help you out at any time to update that profile for you. So I did want to say that regulatory coordinators and research managers should be in class today. So if that's not you, please let us know in the chat, and we can find out which class you should be attending instead of this one. So just let us know. All right, so this is the OnCore study process, or what we call the 30,000-foot view. And what this is a flow chart showing all of the steps that your team would take to get your study open to accrual in OnCore. So you won't be able to register subjects or check in visits or perform any research activities until your study is open to accrual in OnCore and that your sites have been approved to be open as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about this because it does relate to class today, as we're going to be performing some of these steps in the train environment. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. So let's go through this flow chart and walk through all of the steps that you need to take as a study team. So it all starts on the far left-hand side with the HSR portal submission. So this is the Human Subjects Research Portal. It's in red cap, and every study is required to be submitted here. It is quite a lengthy form, and that's because it's a collaborative project. So when you submit to the HSR portal, we're going to review your study and determine if it needs OnCore. So what we're looking at is something called the Chancellor's Policy that's posted on the OnCore website. And in its most basic form, what this says is that any study with subject interaction is required to use OnCore. And if it has invasive procedures, then an OnCore specifications will be built. So once we determine that your study needs OnCore, then a study shell is built, and this is done by our team. And then we have the calendar builders who are part of the OnCore team, and they're going to build your protocol calendar in OnCore. Then they're going to hand this off to the hospital review specialist for billing compliance and Medicare coverage. And once billing is done, an email goes out to the team, and you're going to review the calendar and give us your approval or your revisions. So you're going to ask questions such as, does it match the protocol calendar? Does it include procedures? You're going to totally review that initial calendar and let us know what needs to be updated or if you just approve it as is. So we really want your feedback and make sure it's built to how your study is going to be run. Once you approve that calendar build, you'll send us the finalized budget and contract. So think of this as a two-step process, with step one being that calendar and step two, the financials. So after the specifications are built, which is another term for the calendar, then we have these sign-offs up top. So we're going to start with the pre-award sign-offs, then the research manager sign-offs, then the compliance sign-offs, which is done outside of the study team, and finally the PI sign-off, then the specifications are released. Below these sign-offs are other sign-offs and other tasks that the study team needs to complete before we can move to open to accrual. So once your study is IRB approved, this gets entered into the PC console. Then you're going to complete the regulatory coordinator sign-offs and the research manager sign-offs. So these sign-offs are happening at the same time as these above sign-offs. And the IRB approval is entered by the study team. And today we're going to be entering that IRB approval into the train environment. So we're going to be acting as the regulatory coordinator, and we're going to enter the IRB approval, and we're going to perform the regulatory coordinator sign-offs. Then we're going to act as the research manager and perform the PC console research manager sign-offs. So we're not going to do the specification sign-offs up above. We're just going to focus on the chart, the part of the chart down here with the IRB approval and the regulatory and research manager sign-offs. Once all of the sign-offs are complete, your study will move to Epic activation. You should be getting your site approvals, and then your study is open to accrual in OnCore. So you have to have all of these steps complete before you register subjects. A lot of study teams mess up this part and they start enrolling before the study is open to accrual in OnCore. So this has to happen before you can see subjects. And just as a reminder, your study is open to accrual once both sets of sign-offs are complete. So that's the specification sign-offs and the PC console sign-offs. You'll need your site approvals. We've got Epic activation, and then we move to open to accrual. All right, hopefully that was clear to everyone. So we're just going to talk a little bit more about that sign-off process so you can see it a little more in depth. So it's just another way to look at the step-by-step sign-offs that are needed. So we've got the calendar review, which is done by the study team to review the calendar. We've got the pre-award sign-offs, which are done by the study team. And this is looking at financial information, making sure it's accurate according to the contract. Now the research manager has 2 sets of sign-offs. So that's the PC console, which we're going to be doing in class today, and the specification sign-offs. Compliance sign-off is done outside of the study team. And the PI sign-off is going to be the final step for these specification sign-offs. And keep in mind that all roles, pre-award role, research, regulatory, research manager, regulatory coordinator, all of these roles require training except for the PI. And the PI sign-offs are done in OnCore. Then we have those other sign-offs, those PC console sign-offs that we're covering in class today. So we have the regulatory coordinator sign-offs, the research manager sign-offs, and once all of the sign-offs are completely moved to open to accrual. And that open to accrual is done by OnCore support. So these are the different protocol statuses that are available to your study in OnCore. So when your study is created by OnCore support, it's going to be in this new kind of blank status, or I guess I wouldn't call it blank, I would just call it the new status. So if your study needs SARC or PRMS approval, it's going to be entered into OnCore. And once your study gets that IRB approval, that gets entered and then the sign-offs start. So we have these different statuses. We have open to accrual, closed to accrual, IRB study closure, on hold, suspended, abandoned, terminated. So regulatory coordinators can put a study on hold or abandoned after the study is open to accrual. They can close it to accrual and document IRB study closure. They can also suspend or terminate a study. So we want you to constantly be updating the protocol status as these things change for your research studies. So it's your responsibility to be updating OnCore as things happen. Maybe the sponsor has suspended the study temporarily. We need that documented in OnCore. And we're going to walk through a bunch of these statuses today during class, so you'll kind of understand a little bit more what I'm talking about once we're actually in the training environment. So you do need OnCore assistance to undo a suspend, an abandoned, or a terminated study status. And OnCore support opens your study to accrual, so keep that in mind. So these are a few OnCore basics, just some tips and tricks on using the training environment today. And this also applies to OnCore production. So the back and forward buttons do not work in OnCore. They're going to cause your page to crash and they just don't work. So I would avoid clicking those. Only click things once in OnCore. We recommend that you don't double click things, and you'll just look for the spinning wheel when a page is loading, and you're going to wait for that page to load. If it's not loading, you can click again. So asterisks are the system mandatory fields. You're going to see those on a lot of pages in OnCore. Now, some pages don't have asterisks, but they still have mandatory fields that you need to complete. So we're going to cover some of those pages today where I'll say, okay, the first 2 lines are the minimum requirements for this page. So to be able to update the protocol status, you need to fill out this information. It might not be super clear since there aren't asterisks, but hopefully you'll get used to some of these pages as we cover them in training. And you'll see where those system mandatory fields are. So update is edit mode in OnCore, and submit is how you save your changes in OnCore. So some pages are view only with your permissions, and you need an update button to be able to make changes. So sometimes you'll see both a submit and save button present on the same page. You're going to want to click save first and then submit. So we will encounter that a little bit during class today. I'll try to remind you when those come up. So you'll get into the habit of clicking both things, but save first. Now you'll see a question mark in the tab of each page, and I'm going to demonstrate this a little further once we're in OnCore Train. But this question mark is a link to the learning portal pages. So it's a help button in the tab of each page that leads you to Ensemble. And this is an awesome resource when you don't know what certain fields mean, you need more information about a page. Us at OnCore Support, we use this learning portal pages all the time when we have questions, and it has a lot of answers. So if you're ever stuck, I encourage you to go there first because you might find your answer there. All right, so do we have any questions? I'm gonna go ahead and get logged into OnCore Train, and I'd like you to do the same. So if you'll just give me a couple seconds, I'll get logged in and I'll have the homepage pulled up. I'd also like you to pull up the 2 documents we're using in class today. So that's that protocol binder and the protocol information sheet. We're going to be using both during training today. So get logged into Train, pull up those documents, and we'll meet back in just a couple seconds. Thanks, guys. So on the right-hand side of my screen is the home page of OnCore Train. So mine might look a little different from yours. At the top bar, I have all of my favorites saved for areas that I access frequently. And I will show you how to add favorites so that you can have those shortcuts as well. On the left-hand side, we have the protocol binder and the protocol information sheet. So we're going to be referencing these pretty constantly during class today, but I will have them pulled up for you. It'll probably be a lot easier if you have them on your own screen, and the links are in the chat. So if you're having any trouble logging in, please throw those questions into the chat. We want to make sure that everyone is logged into Train. And once again, everything you do in class will be graded, but you'll have time after class and during the certification exercise to fix anything that maybe you weren't able to accomplish during training. So don't stress out too much. We'll try to take it at a slower pace and make sure everyone's on board and make sure everyone's asking questions if they need help. All right, let's talk a little bit about this OnCore homepage. So if we go to the top right, you'll see your name with a drop-down arrow. So here you can view your user profile. Under this help button is a link to those learning portal pages in ensemble.net. You can navigate back to the home page by clicking on the home page button. And this show PHI, this is really only applicable to people who are registering subjects in OnCore. So it's more for clinical research coordinators, I'd say. But if this isn't checked marked, you won't be able to view subject information, and it's going to de-identify the patients. So you may want to look into that a little bit more once you're in production, make sure everything is set. But I don't believe regulatory coordinators will even have this option in production. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we have the OnCore logo in the banner. So if you click on the word OnCore or the logo next to it, this is going to take you back to the home page wherever you are in OnCore. So we're going to be using that a little bit today. This menu button to the right, these are the areas you're allowed to access given your permissions. So right now you have really broad access to the system, and that's because we're in train. So production is going to look a little different. So as a regulatory coordinator, you wouldn't see this financials console in production. Now each area also has a sub area, and this is also how we add favorites. So OnCore is super heavy on navigation. You're clicking constantly. And so you may want to favorite the areas that you access frequently. Now we're going to be using this PC console area during class today, and I'll show you how to navigate there in a couple minutes. But you may want to favorite the PC console area because you're going to be accessing that area for the certification exercise. So it'll throw it up there into your menus bar and you won't have to figure out how to navigate there after class. So totally up to you. But the way you add favorites is you just click on the star to the left of the area or the sub area. And that's going to bring it up to this banner bar and give you that more one-click access to certain areas in OnCore that you want to favorite. I access quite a few areas, so I have a lot of favorites. Totally up to you. Then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about widgets. So widgets give you one-click access to things such as your protocols and your subjects. Also, it gives you one-click access to your task lists. So I'm going to show you how to add widgets. And if you would like to add widgets to your homepage, you can follow along with me or you can just watch. But widgets are going to be most useful in production, not so much train, because you're not really assigned to protocols or subjects in the train environment. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to show you how to add widgets. Feel free to follow along with me. So it can be kind of hard to spot, but in the top right corner under your name is a very small black gear. Go ahead and click on the gear. And that's going to bring you to this configuration page where we add widgets. So down here, we have a list of all of our widgets available to us. There are actually quite a few, even more than I mentioned. And we're going to add protocol widgets. So this is going to display a list of protocols, maybe ones that you've bookmarked or ones that you're assigned to. So we're going to configure the widget to tell it what to display. But we're going to add our protocols widget. So to the far right, check mark the add box for protocols and click the save button at the bottom of the page. So you're going to check mark the add box, click save, and you should see the word protocols pop up into the column. That means that you've added the protocols widget successfully. Then we're going to click on that OnCore logo in the banner to navigate back to home. So you should see your protocol widget on your home page if you have been following along. Now we want to tell it what to display. So if there's a gear within the widget, we can configure it further. So if you hover over that gear, it says configuration. So click on the gear within the widget. And we're going to change both of these options to yes. We want to display our bookmark protocol and we want to display our assigned protocols. Once you've made those changes, click save. Now I have a protocol assigned to me in train. You probably aren't going to see anything popping up in your widget. but if you were in production, you'd probably have quite a few more protocols. Now, I'm going to demonstrate a bit later during class how to bookmark your protocol so that it shows up in your widget. And so then you'll see it populate just like mine is. All right, so now we're going to pull up your protocol shell. So everyone has a protocol shell that was made for them for training today. And that's what you will be editing and working on during class. I'll just say it one more time, everything done in class will be graded. So make sure that you're following along on your own screen as we go through all of these steps. So to pull up our shell, we're gonna go into the PC console and I want everyone to follow along with me. So we're gonna click on menu at the top left corner. So menu, go down to protocols and go to the sub area PC console. So menu, protocols, PC console. Feel free to click the star to the left if you want to favorite that area in case you need to access it. And we're all going to click into the PC console. So in the left-hand side, we have this select protocol field. It's find as you type. And typically your protocol number is going to be your COMERB number. So your training protocol today is going to be your initials dash today's date. So Mario is going to post in the chat. Let me see if that has been posted. Not yet, but Mario is going to post everyone's name and the name of their protocol shell into the chat. All right, it has been posted. So find your name on the list and look to the right and you'll see how you find your protocol. So it'll be your initials dash today's date. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You just click into the field. I'm going to type in my initials and I'm going to find the protocol with today's date 10/12/21 and click on it. Once you have found your protocol, please say found it or however you want to say it in the chat so I know that everyone has found their protocol. All right, we're just waiting on a couple more people. So Margot, yours should be capital MN dash 10/12/21. So Mario's gonna look into that and make sure that your access is okay. So just hang tight a second. And if everyone could make sure that their computer is on mute, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we'll just give it a couple more seconds, guys. Thanks for your patience. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about where we're at now. So everyone should be in their protocol shell and have all of their protocol information populated, but we're going to be filling in a lot more information during this training. So on the left-hand side are going to be your navigation areas, and we also have tabs to the top right of each area. So you're going to use both to navigate within the PC console. So the first thing we want to do is, if we look at the top right-hand corner, it says protocol status and new. So like I said, this is when your study shell is built in OnCore. Your protocol is in that new status. And we want to be updating that status as things occur to our study during the length of a clinical trial. So we have Carrie who also can't find her, so that's okay. Mario will help you out in a second. And Mario, let me know if you need some help looking into these accounts. So since we're in this new status, we want to update that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that we are Stanley Regulatory Coordinator, and we are going to perform the regulatory sign-offs, and we're going to enter the IRB initial approval information for our study. So if we look in our protocol binder and we scroll down a little bit, we have all of our information that we need to enter the IRB initial approval. So we are going to navigate to the Reviews tab, and the first thing we need to do is document IRB approval. So that's our first step as regulatory coordinators. So we're going to go down to more of the middle of the column to the Reviews tab and click on Reviews. So all of your review information for your study can be seen here in this Summary tab once it's been entered. One tab to the right is the PRMS SARC tab. So you would see that PRMS SARC approval here. And this is really only entered for oncology and investigator-initiated studies. And the committee is going to enter that information for you, so no need to enter. Now we're going to go all the way to the right, or kind of in the middle, and go to the IRB tab, which is where we want to enter that IRB initial approval for our study. So go ahead and click on the IRB tab. We are on the Reviews tab and the IRB tab. Now, if Carrie and Margot could say in the chat whether or not they have found their protocol shells, that would be great. Thanks, Margot. All right, thanks, Carrie. Thanks, guys. And thank you, everyone, for your patience. So Carrie and Margot, we're on the Reviews tab and the IRB tab. So I want everyone to go ahead and click on the Add button so that we can edit this page. So this is where we enter our IRB initial approval, but it's also the same page for when you're entering amendments and continuing reviews. So all of the IRB review information is going to be captured on this page. So you can see that there are no asterisks on this page, and the minimum requirements are in the first 2 lines. So if we look in our protocol binder, it has all of the dates and information we need to fill out these first 2 lines. So as I'm walking you through what to enter in these fields, you can reference the protocol binder. We're on the first page, and that has all of the dates that we're entering. So we have our IRB review. We're going to enter the information in the Reviews tab. So we start on the first field, which is the review date. This is the day that the IRB reviewed the study. Now, to enter the date, which is going to be June 23rd, 2016, this is the only field where you must include slashes for the date to populate, and you must select the date from the dropdown. So it would be 06/23/2016, and you're going to choose that date from the dropdown. So that's our first field. So everyone go ahead and enter that review date. Then we have our submit date, which is the day that our study was submitted to the IRB. That date is June 15th, 2016. And all you need to do is enter the date now. No need to use slashes. So you can just do 06/15/2016. And if you click anywhere on the screen, it will populate the slashes for you. So whatever's easiest for you when entering these dates, go ahead with that. Then we have our committee. So this is the review panel that reviewed the study. This is the IRB panel that reviewed your study. And so for the IRB, they have different panels that assess specific kinds of studies. So for example, COMERB panel D is going to be for high risk and oncology studies only. So our review panel for this IRB review is COMERB panel A. As we move to the right, we have our review reason. So in order to get your study open to accrual, you must give the review reason as initial review. Now, as you have continuing reviews and amendments, that review reason is going to change, but this is our IRB initial approval. And the only way to change your study to open to accrual is to have the review reason as initial review. Review type is determined by the IRB, and you're just going to choose what is applicable to your study. And for today's training, we had a full board review, so we're going to change review type to full. Then we have action. So this is the determination of the IRB review. Was it approved? Was your study suspended? Has it expired? Whatever happened, at the review is what this action is going to be. But to get your study open to accrual, it must be approved. So it can't be approved with minor mods or approved with red line changes. If you want your study open to accrual, it must be approved. So the action must be approved. This action date is a required field, and it must be the date that it was approved by the IRB. So it's the same date as the review date, June 23rd, 2016. Then we have our expiration date, and this is the day that your review determination expires. It's typically 1 year after the approval date. So our expiration date is going to be June 22nd, 2017. We have an option to add a review number. This is not required. It can be useful to track things such as amendment numbers. So feel free to use that at any other time, but we're not going to use that today. So we have filled out the first 2 lines. And right now we still have our protocol status set as new. So we want to click submit and make sure that your protocol status changes. So everyone go ahead and click submit. Look at your protocol status at the top right, and it should say IRB initial approval, and your IRB expiration date should be in red. So you'll know that you did this right if your protocol status has changed. So everyone go ahead and make sure that has updated. Now, when we add an IRB approval here into the reviews tab, it is going to automatically associate the study to a made-up institution that is called the Colorado Research Center. So if you look at the middle of your page, you should see the word institution and Colorado Research Center. So all other institutions are affiliates of this. So what we need to do when we have an IRB review, you must remember to associate the other institutions in OnCore. So the regulatory coordinator is the only one who can do this. And this is so you can consent your subjects. So look for the word institution in the Colorado Research Center, and everyone click on the word edit to the right. It's a hyperlink. Click edit. And there should be a pop-up. Now you might want to make sure that your pop-ups are not blocked, or they're going to prevent this page from showing. So we're going to associate all of the institutions available for our study. So select each institution that's available and click submit. You should have 4 institutions total. All of them should be checked marked, and we're going to click submit. You'll know you did it right if you see all of the institutions listed here. And that's all you need to do to associate an institution. So next, we're going to upload the IRB approved consent and protocol. So we have this details tab under here, and we're going to click the add button so that we can edit the fields. Let me just respond to Carrie really quick. So Carrie, we just clicked the edit button to the right of the word institution, and we checked marked all of the boxes and associated our institutions. So that is how you would associate them. And Mario can help you if that is not totally clear. So make sure everyone clicks add under the details tab at the bottom of the page. So then that's where we're going to add our protocol and our informed consent form. So we're going to first add our protocol. So part of this IRB initial review is it's up to the regulatory coordinator to upload those IRB approved documents. So you do need that IRB approved consent and your protocol, and maybe you have more documents. These can all be entered in the IRB reviews tab. So under type, we're going to choose protocol. So this is alphabetical. And let's scroll down to P and find the word protocol. Just give me 1 second. So Mario, we have someone who joined late and they needed a little help following along and getting access. Their username is HaysDU. So if you could please help them out real quick, that would be great. Thank you. All right, so we've chosen our type as protocol. Now amendment number and receive date are not required, but you can update those if you want to, just they're not a requirement. So version date is required, and this was the date that it was approved for use by your subjects. Approved for use, yes, so your subjects can use these documents. So our version date is going to be June 17th, 2016. So we've got our protocol type, our version date, and now we're going to scroll to the far right and click the small save button. All right, now we have an option to attach a file or a URL. So keep in mind that you can choose either option, and just to make things easier in Train, we're going to attach a URL. So in our subject or in our protocol binder, we have the name of our URL for our protocol. So everyone click on attach a URL, and we're going to choose www.fakeprotocol.com as our URL. Once you've added that, then we're going to click the submit button at the bottom of the page. So if you're not seeing that URL, you might not have clicked the save button to the far right. So make sure once you've added your version date and your protocol, you click save first and then you add. Now, we have this option to release the document. So if we don't release documents, the study team can't see the documents in document search. So we do want to release these documents by check marking the release box. Now keep in mind that documents are not accessible until the study is open to accrual. So once you check mark release, click submit. All right, so we have added our protocol. Now we want to add our informed consent form, or our ICF. So we are going to click on the add button one more time under the details tab. And our type is going to be our ICF main. So ICF-main, that's our main informed consent form. And our version date is going to be the same as June 17th, 2016. And you're going to scroll to the right and click the small save button. We want to attach a URL. That URL name is going to be in the binder, and it's www.fakeicf.com. Click submit. And release the document by check marking release and clicking submit again. Now, since our protocol status at the top right says IRB initial approval, this status change automatically triggers an email which comes from the regulatory coordinator, and what it said, or goes to a regulatory coordinator, and it says, please complete the regulatory admin sign off for this protocol. So once the IRB initial approval is entered, then you need to perform the regulatory admin sign off for the protocol. And that's what we're going to work on next. So we are going to complete the regulatory admin sign off, as I said. So as a refresher, we first have the regulatory admin sign off after the IRB initial approval is entered. Then we have the research manager sign off. Then we move into open to accrual. So we're going to navigate to the main tab. So to make sure that everything has been saved on your IRB review, you can go ahead and click submit and close. And we're going to go to the main tab, which is the first tab on the left-hand side after you click close from the IRB review. Click on main. And that should bring us to the details tab. So the regulatory coordinator, the first step in the sign off is they're responsible for updating the blank tabs on the main details tab. So as part of your protocol shell that was built when you submitted to the HSR portal, we filled in the minimum requirements for this page. And so the regulatory coordinator needs to update the rest of the fields. Now, if this is an oncology study, You will not enter additional information, and PRMS updates these fields. Now that we're on the main details tab, I want everyone to click update at the bottom right. And we're going to go through these fields, and I'm going to talk about what they mean and what data we need to enter. Now, we are going to follow the protocol information sheet. So we're going to click on the protocol information sheet, which is something that Mario sent you in the chat. And this contains all of our information for our protocol details on this tab. So if you're a little behind or trying to catch up, you can reference this protocol information sheet for all the information I'm about to give you. So let's take a look at some of these. At the top right corner, we have our NCT number. So this is the National Clinical Trials number, and you are required to add an NCT number if you didn't submit one in the HSR portal submission. So it's an identifier assigned by clinicaltrials.gov. Then we have the library field. So you can't change this in OnCore, but what this library is if your study is opened at only one institution, such as Children's, then it's going to list Children's as the library. Now, if it's an oncology study, the library will be oncology. And if the study is open at multiple institutions, the library is going to be this kind of catch-all term, which is health affairs. To the right, we have the department. So this will be submitted in your HSR portal submission, and it's the PI's department. We have the organizational unit, which you can't change in OnCore. And we only have oncology or health affairs as options. Your title was submitted in the HSR portal submission. Now, a short title is required if it was not submitted in your HSR portal submission. So if we look at our protocol information sheet, we have our short title. So I want everyone to type in their short title. Make sure you click that update button first so you can edit. And we're going to type in Trainafil trial. That's our short title. Below the short title, we have our objectives. So we encourage you to enter them if they are available to your study. So we do have some objectives, and they're in our protocol information sheet. So we're going to type those in. So we have two objectives. Objective 1 is determine if Trainafil improves stroke volume. And 2, determine if Trainafil improves quality of life. So go ahead and enter those. Then we have our phase, which is required to be filled out. It may have been entered in the HSR portal submission. Our phase is going to be pilot for this training protocol show. To the right of that is our scope. So this is our enrollment scope, and it can be local or national. Our scope is going to be local for this trial. We have our age as adults. Now, if we look at this next field, which we can't edit right now, This is consent at age of majority. So this triggers warnings to reconsent your subjects when they turn 18 if you have this set. Now this field is only active when you have your age selected as children or both children and adults. So not applicable right now. If we keep going down, we have drug accountability. So if drugs are being used in your trial, so we're going to change that to yes. We have yes set as investigator initiated protocol and yes for involves therapy. So if involves therapy is not already selected, go ahead and choose yes. Now we have this next field which says exclude protocol on web. We're going to leave that unchecked for now. Now this is if you want your protocol to be available on the Campus Research Studies website that's visible to the public. So what this does is it allows the public to enroll in your clinical trial if you're open to accrual and enrolling. So it's totally up to you if you want to have your trial displayed on the web. And we're going to talk about this a lot more a little bit later during training. So for now, let's just leave that unchecked. If we go under drug accountability, we have open for affiliates only. We're going to change that to no. We have our summary accrual information only. We're going to change that to no. Now this field is marked as yes when only the summary subject data will be collected for a protocol. Our protocol type should already be selected as treatment. Then we have our registration center, which should be research center. This involves correlates companion should be set to, let's see, no. Now this enables the correlates and companions tab in the PC console when set to yes. We have our data monitoring, which is going to be internal. And so this records the party responsible for monitoring protocol data. So once again, the data monitoring is going to be internal. We have adjuvant, which is going to be set to no. So if this is set to yes, it indicates that the study drug is enhancing the impact of another drug. We're going to leave the include specimen banking unchecked, as well as leaving the companion study unchecked. So just if it's a companion to another study. Multi-site trial should be changed to no. It is an investigational drug, so make sure that says yes. We have the option for precision trial, which is no. So this indicates whether the protocol uses precision medicine. And we're going to leave the rest of these unchecked. Now I want everyone to click submit at the bottom page before we move on to the accrual information, because I know that you're not going to remember all of these fields. There's just too much information. I did want to talk to you about them, but I do want to show you how you can figure out what these fields mean on your own. So at the top right corner, under your name and the drop down, there's a question mark. If I click on that question mark, this is taking me to those learning portal pages, and it has a page overview of this main details tab. And if you scroll down, it has definitions for all of these fields. What library means, what department means, what you should be adding as a short title, just information about what that means, scope, drug accountability. So everything we just covered, it gives you all of the definitions for those fields, because I know that's a lot to remember. And so you can reference this at any time on any page in OnCore, and it will give you more information about what needs to be entered. So I wanted to make sure that everyone clicked submit before we navigated to those learning portal pages. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the accrual information towards the bottom of the page. So if investigator initiated study is set to yes, this will cause the study to close once it's reached its protocol target accrual. So we have our protocol target accrual as 100. Now the RC total accrual goal upper. This is if it's not investigator initiated protocol, the study will also close once this is reached. And you have to keep in mind that this number must encompass all institution numbers at all sites. Then we have our lower goal, which is the lowest number that you're able to reach statistical analysis. So this is used for investigator initiated protocols. Now, all of these numbers here are from the HSR portal submission. So if the study team needs to update these, you're going to do that as part of these sign-offs. Right now, we are not going to enter any more information. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's fine. So we'll leave these alone, but you can enter more information as part of the sign-offs. Now we have the primary completion date, which is submitted in your HSR portal submission, but we also have this study completion date. And this is when your study is expected to be IRB closed. So it is good to add an anticipated date here if you don't have an actual date. So our study completion date is going to be 12/15/2023. And we're going to change this to anticipated and click submit. All right, so I'm going to go back to the protocol binder. We have already reviewed the main details tab. Once again, everyone, please make sure you hit submit so that your data is saved. We're going to scroll down. And we're going to be on step 7, which is select the management tab. So in OnCore, go one tab to the right and click on the management tab. So we'll start talking about some of these fields. We have this IRB number. So if you have an additional identifying number for your protocol, you can add that here. When you search in that select protocol field, which is how we found our study shell, you will search by the protocol number, or you can use this IRB number. So you can search by either. We don't typically use a pharmacy number or a priority score, but these can be updated at any time. So we're not going to talk too much about those. Now, PRMS and SARC adds their own information, so the study team should not edit these type of fields that say PRMS SARC, and the DSMC will add their own information into OnCore. So we're going to skip some of these fields. Now we have this CTRC participation. This should be set to yes. This is from your HSR portal submission where this information comes from. Now the CTRC does not add their own information. So the study team can update that information here as needed. So we have a CTRC number, an approval date, a category. So feel free to update that as needed for your study. We're going to leave the coding scheme alone and not edit that. Now, if we move to the right for generate MRN, this is really important. So protocols at non-UC health sites, such as Barbara Davis or Children's, will need this button to be changed to required. And so this is set up so that you can register your subjects in the CRA console and you will automatically generate an MRN for non-UC health subjects. So if it is a UC health study, you're going to choose no. So OnCore support can help change this, but it's also up to the regulatory coordinator that when a study team isn't able to automatically generate an MRN when they're registering subjects, it's up to the regulatory coordinator to come into the management tab and make sure that this generate MRN button is selected in the right field. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. If we move to the right, we have the automated sequence number. So if you want OnCore to auto-generate a sequence number, you can choose yes. If you already have a sponsor sequence number, you would choose no. Or if you have a different type of sequence number that maybe isn't from the sponsor, but you're coordinating with other study sites and you all have agreed on a certain sequence number, you would choose this as no. So just whatever is applicable to your study. This use randomized algorithm, the study team can use it if they want. We don't typically use that. We have our internal account number where you can track a speed type. We have our hospital account number. So this is a requirement for children's studies. And for these children's studies, this is where we capture the G0 code. So otherwise leave this blank if this is not a children's study. Excuse me. So we have this allowed duplicate enrollment. You would check this box if subjects on your study are allowed to screen fail and then come back on the study. So this happens a lot when people are registering subjects and they're like, I need to register them again. They've screen failed, I can't do it. So you as the regulatory coordinator can just make sure that allowed duplicate enrollment is check marked. And we're not going to talk about these other fields for the allow on treatment date or the populate on follow-up date, but those can be checked and used as needed. So let's talk a little bit about these administrative groups towards the bottom of the page. So these are your management groups for your study. So for your management groups, your profile must match the PC console. So the management group is what drives access to the protocol. So if your management group isn't assigned in your profile, you can't access the protocol. That's why these access request forms are really important for you to tell us what your management groups are and make sure you have access to all of your protocols. So think of your management group as the team that you're on, and you must include all research members' management groups here. Now for oncology studies, there are 3 different management groups and administrative groups. So as the regulatory coordinator sign-off goes, it's important to review these, but you don't edit them. PRMS will update and add and edit for oncology studies. Now, as the regulatory coordinator, you need to make sure that all of your research members' management groups are listed here under administrative groups. So you're going to review it. Right now, everything looks good in our training protocol shell. So we're going to leave that alone, but that is part of the sign-off duties. This flow chart we're going to talk about a little bit more in a couple minutes. So for now, we're going to leave it alone. If you made any changes to this page, make sure you click submit to save your changes. But I don't think we really updated anything, so I'm just doing that as a precaution. All right, so we have reviewed the management tab. Now we're on step 8, and we are going to select the staff tab. So everyone go 1 tab to the right and click on staff. So you can see that we already have several staff listed here. We add staff roles based on what is submitted in the HSR portal submission. So as a regulatory coordinator, you need to keep this tab updated with staff changes. So the roles that you can see here, all of these staff, these were submitted in the HSR portal submission because they all have sign-off duties to complete before the study is open to accrual. So they receive the notifications for sign-offs via email, just like the regulatory coordinator was notified to say that the regulatory coordinator's sign-off needs to be completed. So this also needs to be kept current so that staff in EPIC can view the study and the subjects. So the regulatory coordinator or the clinical research manager needs to add everyone that's not already listed here. So clinical research coordinators, data managers, everyone who doesn't have sign-off duties, they need to be added into OnCore. So as part of the sign-offs, we are going to add some staff. Now we are going to make the primary contact PAM coordinator a research coordinator as well on the staff tab. Now let me just talk a little bit about the primary contact role. So they actually don't have access to OnCore. They're handling recruitment. And so the contact information for the primary contact is going to be listed on that research studies website that I mentioned, and they will be contacted from there. So if their information is incorrect when you're reviewing the staff tab, you can reach out to OnCore support and we will update their profile. Now, there's a couple things you can do to kind of organize what you see on this page. You can hide affiliates by check marking the hide affiliates box. And you can hide staff members that don't share the same profile as you. You can also check mark the active staff only and view only current staff. A lot of times staff have end dates. they leave the department, they come onto the department, and the staff tab can get quite large. So it might be nice to filter it just to show you active staff only. One thing I want to show you before we make the primary contact a research coordinator, and that is this really handy team button. So at the top right, if I click on select team, I can type in a protocol number. Let's see. And choose the protocol and click show team. And this is going to show me all of the staff from that protocol. And I can click select all and submit and move all of those staff to the staff tab. So if it is the same staff working on multiple studies, it can be a really quick way to transfer and update the staff tab. So only do that if all the staff matches each protocol. So we are going to add Pam coordinator as a research coordinator. So these fields are find as you type. So click on role, and we're going to type in the word coordinator. You should see a couple options. We're going to scroll down and choose clinical research coordinator as the role. When you're finding staff, it's also find as you type. You can search by first name or last name. So our person is named Pam coordinator. So we're going to type in the word coordinator and choose Pam. Start dates are optional, but they can be really helpful for tracking and coverage and all that. But we're just going to click add. So we have her as a clinical research coordinator. Her name is Pam coordinator, and we're going to click add. All right, so there is no submit to save button on the staff tab. So once you click the add button, it's going to automatically save your staff. All right, so we are on step 9 of the regulatory coordinator sign-offs. And we're going to select the IND/IDE tab. So we're going to come back to the sponsor tab. We're going to skip over the sponsor tab and click on the IND/IDE tab. Once you're there, click the add button. Now this information that we need to complete the IND/IDE tab is in our protocol information sheet. So I'm going to switch over to that. I hope everyone has that pulled up. And we're going to start with the first field. Now, we're going to enter the fields with the asterisks because those are the minimum requirements. But we're also going to add a couple other or more information to this tab. So let's start with the IND number first. We're going to add our IND number as 3 number 5s. The next asterisk is our holder name. So who holds the IND? That's typically the PI. And our PI's name is Jan Cures Everything. Now, if the IND is held by the investigator, we must add the FDA information to this tab. So we're going to add an FDA approval date, and that's going to be May 30th, 2016. We have an expiration date. That is going to be 1 day or 1 year later. So that'll be May 29th, 2017. For our IND expanded access, we're going to choose no. So expanded access is compassionate use. So for seriously ill patients, if the drug is working for them, they're going to keep them on it, even if they're not enrolling any other patients and everyone has left the study. All right, so this is one of those pages where we have a save button and a submit button both present. So I want you to click the very small save button to the right and then click submit. We're going to go back to our protocol binder. Now we already entered the IRB review information, so we're going to skip step 10 and we're on step 12. So we're going to navigate to the institution tab and we're going to confirm that the correct institutions are present and that each has a study site available. So once you've clicked save and submit, go 3 tabs down from the main tab and click on institution. So we're all navigating to the institution tab. And we're confirming that the correct institutions are listed and that they have study sites, like I said. Now, as a regulatory coordinator, you cannot edit this page. The institutions that are listed here were submitted with that HSR portal submission. Now, if you need something updated or changed, you would email OnCore support. So as part of your sign-offs, you need to make sure that everything is correct. Now, everything looks good from our point of view for the sign-off. So we're gonna just move on. Now, this is study specific. It doesn't apply to every study, but you may need to complete the regulatory task list if it's applicable for your department. So I'm going to show you where that is. We're all going to navigate to the status tab. So under the accrual tab, click on the status tab. And if you go to the right to task list, you might see that you have a regulatory task list available, and it might have tasks that you need to perform as applicable to your department. So we're not going to cover that in-depthly today. I just want to show you where these task lists live. So if there are specification sign-offs and things that are happening on the specification side of things, you would see that listed under the task list. information about your calendar build. Task list tab is quite important and it contains a lot of information. So I do encourage you to explore it, but we're not going to cover that today. So now that we have reviewed everything we need to complete the regulatory sign-offs, it's time to perform the actual sign-off. So we've gone through all of the steps that we need to take as regulatory coordinators. And now we're going to go back to the status tab. So we're under status on the left-hand column, and make sure you're on the status tab at the top right. Now, if your page looks like mine and you don't see a regulatory admin sign-off button, you need to click close. We need to close out of this window. Once you click close, you should see the regulatory admin sign-off button appear. So we have in our protocol binder the information we need. Stanley Regulatory Coordinator completes the admin sign-off on June 27, 2016. Everyone go ahead and click on Regulatory Admin Sign-Off. And enter a status date of June 27, 2016, and click Submit. Make sure your protocol status in the top right corner has changed to Regulatory Admin Sign-Off. That means that that sign-off has been performed. So you'll know you did it right if you see that protocol status change. You should also see that here listed in the archive trail. We started with the new status, then we documented IRB initial approval, and we changed the status, and now we have performed the regulatory admin sign-off. Now that the coordinator has completed a sign-off, the research manager automatically receives an email. So the email is on my screen in the protocol binder, and it says to please complete the research manager sign-off for this protocol. So now that we're done with the regulatory, we see our next step is the research manager sign-off. Now, keep in mind that as a research manager, you have two sets of sign-offs to complete. That's the PC console, which is what we're going to cover right now, and the specification sign-off, which we are not going to cover. Both sets of sign-offs need to be complete before your study is open to accrual. I feel like I'm drilling it into you guys. I know you got it. I know it makes sense. So we're only going to do the PC console sign-offs today. So let's scroll down. And we're going to pretend that we are all research managers and perform the sign-off. So our first step is to go to the main tab. So the first tab, click on main. And go to the right to the management tab. So main management tab. I really want to emphasize how important these management groups are that are listed. So it is up to the research manager to once again review these management groups and make sure they're accurate. Everything looks good for our training purposes. So now we're going to talk about these flow charts. So on the management tab, click update at the bottom right. And under flowchart at the very bottom, go to the right and click add. That's so we can edit this page. Now, let's talk about these flowcharts. So this is where you decide if you want your protocol listed on the study information portal, which is also short for the SIP, and we'll refer to it as the SIP moving forward. So this is a research study search website. So what this does is it helps referring physicians and the general public find information about clinical trials that they can enroll in. So I am going to pull up that website and show you what it looks like. So it's researchstudies.cu.anschutz.edu. It has categorized these studies. So if we click on one of these categories, we can see all of the available clinical trials that are enrolling and open to the public. Now, if we click on one of them, we can see what type of population they're enrolling. Maybe there's eligibility criteria, who the PI is. Each one is going to have different information, but it also has these categories. And so what this flow chart is it chooses the categories that you want your protocol to fall under to make it easier to find on this website. So let's go back. Now, keep in mind that you can be excluded from this website. You're not required to list your study. So if you recall, on the details tab, you can exclude your protocol from the web. If you want to be added to the website, you would add a flow chart and a path. So the flow chart is the category that the protocol will fall under, and the path is a more specific category related to the flow chart. So you can add as many flow charts as you want. Whatever you want to do for your study works. Now, if your study accepts healthy volunteers, you need to select that flow chart in addition to any other that applies. So I want everyone to choose a flow chart from the dropdown. You can choose any one you want. Excuse me. And we're going to choose a path. So there's a magnifying glass to the right of the path field. Click on that. And you can choose your path that you want by selecting it and click add. So find a flowchart you want to add, find a path, and go to the right and click save. Once you've added that, click submit. I'll just give you guys a second to add that. All right, so we've added our flow charts and our paths, but this is not the final step. We need to make this visible on the website, and we need to turn the study on for the website. So we're going to customize and configure what's being displayed on the web page. And once we configure and complete our setup, then it gets turned on and visible to the website. Now, your study must be open to Accrual before it gets displayed, but we can set it all up before our study is open to Accrual. But by clicking that configure and complete, which we're going to do in a second, this turns the study on for the website when it's open to Accrual. So we're going to configure the SIP. I want everyone to navigate with me. We're going to go to Menu, Protocols, SIP Console. So everyone navigate along with me. We're going to Menu, Protocols, SIP Console. And I want you to click Configure. Before we click Complete and make it active for that website, you can update this page to include more or different information than what's already entered into OnCore. So this is going to default to the information that we've already entered, but if you want to include something different or more, you can do that here. If you don't want to add anything, that's fine. That's just an option for you. Now, this also takes the study off of the website when it's closed to Accrual. So luckily that updates automatically for you. Now, we're not going to make any changes. We're just going to click Complete. And once we click Complete, that's going to turn that study on for the website. And it will be displayed on the website once our study is open to Accrual. All right, now we need to go back to the PC console. I'm going to hit close. And we're going to go to Menu, Protocols, PC console. So once again, we're going to go back to where we were. That's Menu, Protocols, PC console. And you should be on the Main Details tab. All right, we're on step 7 of the Research Manager sign-offs. And we are going to go to the Sponsor tab, the tab that we skipped over for the Regulatory Coordinator sign-offs. So we're on the Main tab, and we're going to the right to the Sponsor tab. Once you're there, click Update. And we're going to go to our protocol information sheet. Let's see. Okay. So our sponsor has already been added, and that's Pfizer. But if you want to add another sponsor, you can click on the Add Sponsor button. Now we are going to add a sponsor protocol number to the Sponsor tab. And this gives you the ability to search for this ID number when you're in that protocol search, and it will benefit the team for tracking purposes. So our sponsor protocol number is in our information sheet. It's going to be a capital letter B and then 7 number ones. Once you've added that, click submit. Now, if you want to add roles, you can do that here too. So if I click on the edit button under roles, we can add different roles to the sponsor tab, and typically people will add a contract research person, so a CRO. So you can add that CRO here by check marking the box, or whatever other roles and personnel that you want to add to the sponsor tab. You check mark the boxes and click submit. If we click on the add sponsor tab, it's fine as you type. So you would just type in your sponsor's name and click add. I'm going to go back to my protocol binder. So we reviewed our principal sponsor, which is Pfizer, and our sponsor roles, and added our sponsor protocol number. So we're now on step 8, and we need to review the treatment information. So before we move to the treatment tab, do we have any questions? Everyone following along okay? All right, well, if any questions come up, please ask them in the chat. Now we're all going to navigate one tab down to the treatment tab. So click on treatment. And I'm going to click close so that I can see a more summary view of what's been entered in the details tab. So if your page looks like mine and you have a close button, everyone go ahead and click close. All right, so now we can review this details tab in the treatment tab. And we're going to make sure that everything looks accurate. Now, this is really important. So if it doesn't look accurate, you can reach out to OnCore support. So this information is not editable. Now, the OnCore support calendar builders will make the requested updates to this page. So pay attention to how the arms are named. If this is a UC Health study, these ARM names will show up in the UC Health instance of Epic. So it's up to the research manager to make sure spelling is right, all of the ARMs are listed, the correct drugs are listed. If something is wrong, reach out to OnCore support. So for training purposes, we're going to look it over. Everything looks great, so we're going to move on. We are now going to select the disease/diagnosis tab. So we're going to go one tab to the right. And we're going to click update. Now, adding a diagnosis, it typically was submitted in your HSR portal submission. So as a manager, you're just verifying that this information is correct. Now we are going to add our own diagnosis, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So a diagnosis is required as a minimum requirement. It's a reportable field, and it helps flow to that recruitment website. This is a required field for oncology studies, so PRMS will update if this is an oncology study, and it informs diagnosis in the subject console for oncology trials. So we're going to go ahead and add our diagnosis. And what we're going to add is heart failure. It has an ICD code of 150. So I want everyone to click update and then click select. It's alphabetical. So we're going to scroll down to H and choose heart failure. Check mark the box and click add once you've found it. And click submit once you're done. I'll give everyone a second to go ahead and add that. And now's a great time for questions. If anyone has any questions, please ask them. All right, we're going to go back to our protocol binder. We already did step 11 and we displayed our study on the SIP. So we're going to keep scrolling. Now we've completed all of the steps for the research manager sign off. We've reviewed the treatment tab, the disease tab, we configured the SIP, the sponsor tab, everything has been completed and we are ready for those research manager sign offs in the PC console. So we are all going to navigate to the status tab on the left-hand side. So click on status. It's 3 tabs down from the treatment tab. And once again, if you do not see that manager sign off button, you need to click close. So if your page looks like mine and you don't see any buttons, click close. All right, so our Michael Scott manager completes the research manager sign off on June 28th, 2016. So that's going to be our status date. So I want everyone to click on research manager sign off. And enter that status date of June 28th, 2016. And click submit. Your protocol status in the top right corner should say research manager sign off, and you should see it in the archive trail. So I'll give everyone a second to make sure that they perform that sign off and ask any questions. So once the manager completes that research manager sign off, OnCore support is going to receive an automatic email that appears from the manager. And it says that this protocol is ready to be open to accrual. OnCore support, please complete the open to accrual checklist and click the open to accrual button. Now keep in mind that the PC console is just one piece of the requirements. So the specification sign-offs are required too. And OnCore support reaches out to the institution that's opening the study. And the institution will give us approval to open the study. So Children's in Denver Health are open and activated separately from OnCore. So UC Health, the site approval happens with the open to accrual. So it depends on where your study is opened at. Now, Epic activation and OnCore approval then happen. So both must be completed to enroll subjects. You can't enroll or recruit subjects before your study is open to accrual in OnCore. Now, once you're working in production, OnCore support will open your study up to accrual. But today in Train, we are going to open it. And in the certification exercise, you will be opening your own study as part of the training. Things are different once you're in production. Like I said, you won't have the open button and the ability to open up the protocol to accrual. But in Train, for today's class and for the after class certification exercise, you will be opening it up to accrual on your own. So the way you open your study is by clicking on the open button. And in our protocol binder, OnCore support opens the study to accrual on June 29th, 2016. So please enter that status date. Once again, you're clicking the open button and you're entering June 29th, 2016 and clicking submit. Make sure your protocol status at the top right corner says open to accrual, and you can also see it in the archive trail. Then we have another automatic email that is going to the PI, the primary contact, the manager, the regulatory coordinator, and the financial specialist. And it's telling everyone on the study team that the study is now open to accrual and subjects can be enrolled in OnCore. So a month later, on July 29, 2016, Michael Scott, manager, receives an email from the sponsor suspending the study due to an FDA clinical hold. So anyone can ask you to suspend research activities on a study, but it's typically requested by the sponsor. Now you have to keep that protocol status updated in OnCore. So whatever happens to your study, if it's suspended, etc., you need to be documenting this in OnCore constantly. So right now we are going to suspend the study due to an FDA clinical hold by the sponsor. So I want everyone to click on the suspend button to the right. We're still on the status tab. Click suspend. And our status date is going to be July 29th, 2016. Our initiator is going to be the FDA. And click on the magnifying glass for the reason, which is on the far right. And our reason is going to be FDA clinical hold. It's kind of in the middle of the list. Once you've entered all of the information, click Submit. Check that protocol status and make sure it says suspended. Now, for training today, we've reached the end of our protocol binder. And I want you to leave your protocol with the protocol status as suspended. But I want to talk to you about removing a study from suspended. Now, I just want you to listen and follow along by watching me, but I want you to keep your protocol status as suspended for the end of training. Now, it seems incredibly tempting, but to remove a study from suspended, we request that you do not click undo suspend. When you click undo suspend, this is going to remove the suspend from this audit trail that we have been capturing everything on. So just watch me. I'm going to demonstrate that real quick. I'm going to click undo suspend. And click submit. And that's going to remove the audit, the trail that says we suspended our study. It doesn't show that anymore, and it just moves it right back to open to accrual. So we can't capture all of the things that have happened to our study. We don't know that it was ever suspended. And we really want to keep that information all together in OnCore. We want that information listed. So you're going to want to email OnCore support and ask them to open the study back up to accrual. So you won't undo the suspend on your own. You're going to email OnCore support and do that. I'll just say it one more time. Make sure your protocol status says suspended. And that's how you're going to leave your protocol so that we can grade it as part of this class. Now, I want to show you a couple more things in OnCore. The first thing is how to bookmark your protocol so it shows up on your widget. So if we go up here to the word PC console, to the left, there's a star. If I click that star till it turns orange and navigate back to the home page by clicking on the OnCore button, I can now see today's protocol listed in my widgets. So you can go ahead and bookmark your protocols once you're in production, or now if you want to, just to practice. And that will bring it up into your widgets in production. Now there's a couple other things I want to show you. You can just watch me. No need to follow along. I'm going to close the documents that we used in class since we're done. And I just want to show you a couple things in OnCore. So remember when we released those documents in the IRB tab? So when we release those documents, they show up in document search for the study teams. So I'm going to show you how to get to document search. So that's going to be menu, protocols, document search. And we need to type in our protocol number. So I'm not sure exactly what protocol is going to pull up, so we'll see. And you need to have the institution selected as Colorado Research Center. So if the institution says something different, you need to change it to Colorado Research Center. So we're entering a protocol number and we're making sure our institution has been selected as Colorado Research Center and click submit. So in this document search results, we have all of the most current and up-to-date documents in one place. So this is really useful for study teams when they need to access documents. It's just one place where they all live. The regulatory coordinator can be updating those. So this is just a really useful tool for coordinators and regulatory coordinators. And keep in mind that these documents are only available when you have your study open to accrual. So they won't be available to study teams before that time period. And you must release the documents in the IRB tab for them to show up here. All right, one more thing, or a couple more things I want to show you is My Console. So we're going to go to menu, My Console. And you can see all of your protocols that you have been listed on in one place. You can see your subjects that you've been listed on or been assigned to, if any. So I'm just going to change the parameters real quick so some of my subjects pop up. So I've got my subjects in one place. And then you can view your occurred and pending subject visits. Now this is more applicable for clinical research coordinators, but I just want to show you this feature. I think it'd be more applicable for you guys to just view the protocols. But if you happen to have subjects and maybe you're performing both roles, you can see your occurred and pending subject visits all in one place. A lot of people like to use My Console in production. Yeah, it is being a little slow. So I think we'll move on. Another thing I want to show you is the specifications tab. I really like this. So menu, ECRF's calendars, and then the specifications tab. All right, I'm just gonna go to the PC console and choose a study, and then I'm gonna navigate to the specifications tab. So menu, protocols, PC console. OnCore so slow today. Thanks for your patience, guys. I'm just trying to get into a protocol so I can demonstrate this really quick. All right, so I'm gonna navigate back to menu, ECRF's calendars, and specifications. So this specifications tab is really cool. So on this calendar tab, I can view the entire calendar build. So I can see the different arms that were built into the study, the end of treatment visits, the follow-up visits. So everything that is part of this study can all be viewed in one big calendar. Now, if I go up to the treatment visits tab, which is right above the calendar tab, this is showing the anchor dates. So it's a guide to show you what different anchors need to be used for visits. So we have a screening visit that would populate on the calendar. And what we need to get that screening visit to unlock and populate is a consent sign date. To get Arm A or Arm B treatment visits to populate on the calendar, we need an on treatment date entered into OnCore. And to get an end of treatment visit to populate on the calendar, we need an off treatment date. So this can be really handy when things aren't looking right on the calendar. Maybe you're checking in visits, things like that. And so just kind of a cool cheat sheet that I really like. So this would be more applicable if you are also registering subjects, but I did want to show you that. All right, so any final questions before we go to some closing slides? All right, so I'm going to minimize train and pull up my slides. All right, so now that you have completed training, there are resources available to you. You can check out the OnCore website, www.ucdenver.edu/OnCore. So listed on this website is that chancellor's policy that I mentioned at the beginning of class, and it tells you what studies require OnCore. There is information about the access request form. So I'm going to need some of you to complete that access request form after class if you haven't done so already. I know a lot of you already have, and that's great. But if you haven't completed the access request form, we need to know how to build your profile and what roles to give you in OnCore. So before we can give you access to OnCore production, we will need you to fill out that form, and you can find that on our website. Also on our website is information about trainings, our office hours, which are on Fridays, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Those dates and times are listed on our website. So a lot of good information on our website, so I encourage you to navigate there. Now, if you need to ask any questions about training or production or just OnCore in general, I do encourage you to email us at oncoresupport@ucdenver.edu. Please don't email us individually to our personal email accounts, because we need to use OnCore support, that email address. We're going to send those emails off to that anyways. So all of the team members from OnCore support are behind that email address, and we can answer your questions a lot faster and more efficiently. So please email us at OnCore support for all of your questions. Now, every Friday for an hour and a half, we have OnCore support office hours. So me and my team are on a Zoom call, and we can share screens and walk through questions. If you're really stuck on the certification exercise, we can help you through it. Questions about financials or checking in visits or sign-offs, anything you need. Every Friday we have office hours. So those times and dates are listed on our website. Also, those times and dates are in our OnCore announcement emails. So now that you have completed training, you are signed up for our weekly OnCore announcement emails. Those come out once a week, and they have current and up-to-date information about the system. UC Health provides information in our announcement emails, more campus-wide announcements. So a lot of good information there. So it's actually really important that you guys are looking out for these announcement emails, because sometimes our systems might be down or they're being upgraded or things like that. And this is how we communicate with everyone. So it's really important that you are reading those announcement emails so you know what's happening with OnCore. We don't want information lost, but this is how we communicate with you about issues and changes to the system. So please be on the lookout for those. Like I said, they come out once a week. Then we have our OnCore SharePoint website. So this holds guidance documents, sign-off instructions. So we do have documents that show all the steps that we did in class for all the different sign-offs. So research manager sign-offs, regulatory coordinator sign-offs, those specification sign-offs, PI sign-offs. We have guidance documents, and they all live in SharePoint. Now, this is also where the certification exercise that you will get after class lives. So when you get links from OnCore support for documents, these are links to documents in SharePoint. So these are all password protected, and you have to use your CU Anschutz credentials to log in. So you can't use a children's email or something like that. It has to be your CU Anschutz credentials to access these documents, just like when you're logging into OnCore. So when you click the link, it's going to take you to the SharePoint website. Now, sometimes the sign-in page will not populate, so you're going to have to copy and paste the link into a new browser that you don't use often to populate the sign-in page. If you have any questions about accessing documents, you can email us at OnCore support and we can help you out. You can also refer to Ensemble from within OnCore. So remember when we clicked on that question mark and it explain those details in those fields? Well, you can refer to Ensemble on any page that you're on in OnCore. And you can also go to ensemble.net and make an Ensemble login. So this is a whole community of users. There's webinars and e-learnings and a lot of good information that is more general information about OnCore. So I do encourage you to check that out if you're looking for more information.